Okay, I'm recording. And Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you very much for agreeing to speak to our class.
My pleasure. I'm honored you gave me the opportunity, and really pleased to be able to join you all virtually and share in a conversation on one of my favorite subjects, supply chain and retail grocery. That's been my entire professional career. So I've got uh, I've got some things prepared to take you through, but I'm this is all about providing hopefully some value and not boring the living daylight out of the group here. So the best use of the time will be to answer questions that will be helpful to any of you. So feel free to jump in. I put in a quick bio. I've been with Whole Foods just over a year. As Mark set up, Mr. Gavor, I just moved there, moved to Central Texas about a year ago from Chicagoland. Born and raised Chicago. Went to school in the area, University of Iowa for undergrad, and then down in the city at DePaul for MBA and a JD. And worked for most of my career with a company called Tapco Associates, which is a group purchasing organization, a GPO, but basically it aggregates volume for regional players in the grocery industry, wholesalers and retailers around the country. Kind of serves as a headquarters for a virtual national chain. And the company Topco probably isn't familiar to you. Their headquarters are right off of the Arlington Heights Road exit off of I-90 out in Elk Grove Village, just south of Arlington Heights city. And but they operate B2B, so there's no like public facing branding. It's all enterprise back office type stuff. But if nothing else, I'd love to be able to make you aware of some of the opportunities that exist in the area around Chicago, like a firm like Topco that doesn't get a ton of notoriety, but was a great place to work. I learned a ton. Spent 17 years there before departing to join up with Whole Foods last August. And I'm this is what I've done my whole life professionally, and it's something I really enjoy. But I didn't set out to like get into sourcing and product development and private brands and retail grocery. Kind of just worked into that way. I was a finance person, and we didn't have classes like the class you're in right now when I was in school, and so I kind of just got lucky and found my way into a spot, and then got my eyes open to the opportunity. So I'm thrilled that you all have access to kind of the education on the front end, so you can begin to consider if this is something that's worthwhile to you. I know I've enjoyed my career and get a lot of enjoyment, and just it's a challenge and it's a lot of fun too. So that's a little bit about myself. I put my LinkedIn contact out there. Feel free, reach out, connect. Happy to have you part of the network, and look forward to watching you all as you take off and flight in your careers. Quickly, a couple of recommendations, since I know you all need more things to read since you're in night school. But two books that I've really enjoyed. One, which will be a little related to some of the material I'll talk to, which is Conscious Capitalism, which was co-written by the founder of Whole Foods Market, John Mackey. And then the second, which is just an amazing read. It's The Secret Life of Groceries, and it's kind of the industry the grocery industry told through the lens of like an investigative journalist who just does an incredible job of like telling the stories behind what's kind of an incredible industry and pretty special business. So if you get a chance, you can of course buy them on Amazon or get your Audible account loaded up. And I don't think either of them require special credits on Audible, so they're like part of the base membership. But good reads or audio listens if you get the opportunity. So, and then lastly, before I jump into some of the materials, ground rules. I already kind of prefaced this, but please ask questions. It's not an interruption. I promise I can and will talk for 50 minutes straight, but you will probably fall asleep. I know this because most nights my wife convinces me to tell her a story, and about 5 minutes in, she's asleep because apparently my voice is relaxing to her. So do yourself a favor, ask questions, jump in. I can't see the chat because I'm sharing my screen, but just like come off mute and speak up, and I will be grateful for your interjection. Mr. Gavor did give me a handful of kind of thought starters that I put out in outline form that I'm gonna walk through, but I'm game to go anywhere you'd like this to go. So please feel free to redirect us off the script. It's no problem, and hopefully we can have some fun because you're already dedicated enough to come into night school and get yourself some learning in the evening. So hopefully you can at least crack a smile and have a laugh or two along the way. And me too. That's good for the soul. So with that out of the way, I literally have two of the most basic slides you will ever see. And part of that is because at Amazon, we don't believe in PowerPoints. We do 6-page writing assignments. So I've grown up building PowerPoints, and I've found it become an obsolete skill. So I'm using it a little bit here, but that's one of the interesting things about working at Amazon is the whole Amazon writing style and kind of navigating that. But so I'm just gonna cover off quickly. Here's the topics I'm gonna speak to. I'm gonna spend a little time giving you a little bit of an overview of Amazon and Whole Foods Market and my job, right? Like, I think these are probably two companies you're probably pretty familiar with, so I won't bore you with super basic things, but I'll try to give you a little bit of perspective on that. I'll spend a little time talking about what it's like to work at Amazon, and a specific click in to talk culture at Amazon, culture at Whole Foods Market. It's a big deal, and it is a source of some controversy. And then we'll shift to a little bit of kind of the state of the industry, talk about changes in priority. When you think about where we've been pre-pandemic, through the pandemic, here to where we are today, and some of the things that have changed in the landscape, what we're working on, that sort of thing. Talk about supply shortages that we're experiencing now. How big inflation is in the business, and some of the things that we're thinking about on that subject, and then kind of close with any other challenges faced or threats perceived that we're focused on as an organization as we move forward. Obviously, with the disclaimer that I cannot share or divulge any trade secret information, so this will all be kind of generalized. But with that said, hopefully, it'll give you a flavor of some of the things you're hoping to learn about. So, can you still see my screen? I shifted over to an outline.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
The PowerPoint still shows. Cool. All right. So, overview of Amazon, Whole Foods. Amazon. I think you all are spending a lot of time focused on Amazon, so I don't think I won't bore you with the basics there. I'll start actually talking about Whole Foods because there's a pretty interesting story. If you don't know, Whole Foods actually was started back in 1978, And the first store was called Safer Way, which, for those of you familiar with a company called Safeway, you'll know that that's a nice little play on words to indicate a grocery store that had, higher standards or better quality. Of course, Safeway didn't take too kindly to that. So it took about 2 years before they figured out who Saferway was and sent the appropriate cease and desist letter over to the office, and then the team changed their name to Whole Foods officially in 1980. And way back in '78 was founded by John Mackey, who's been our CEO basically through the entire organization. So for 44 years, and where I joined was a founder-led organization, which is pretty incredible, pretty special. John actually just stepped down last month and turned the reins over to Jason Beekle. Jason's a Wisconsin native and a Packer fan, unfortunately, but and he was our chief operating officer, about a 10-year veteran with the company, and more importantly than that, he was an insider. So there was a lot of fear within the organization when we knew John Mackey wasn't going to work forever, and there was definitely some fear that hey, what happens when John hangs it up? Is Amazon going to come in and put their person up in the post? And so the fact that we were able to transfer leadership from within was a real big deal for the Whole Foods team. And Jason's background prior to the 10 years he spent with Whole Foods was really as a retail consultant with Accenture, and he's worked with a lot of the major firms in the grocery industry, really heavily immersed in tech. He came in as the chief information officer, and then graduated to chief operating officer, and then now has just taken over the post as CEO. Fun fact, Whole Foods was the single most expensive acquisition in Amazon's history of acquisition. Valuation was about $14 billion back in 2017, and I think the next largest one they bought was it MGM, one of the movie studios. I think they paid like 11 billion for. So we were a big purchase for the Amazon organization. And for Whole Foods Market, that was a defensive move. It was really all about protect and preserve. At the time, Whole Foods was struggling. Go back into the mid 2010 range. You're coming off of the Great Recession. You had this period of about 6 years of just hyper growth, and it really stalled out around 2015, and then started showing some real weakness and declines in the business into 16. Around that same time, an activist investor by the name of Carl Icahn, who's pretty famous, started buying up a sizable stake in the company, and obviously it was a public firm at the time, and so Mr. Icahn was seeking to force the sale of the company, and he felt that this would be the best move for the shareholders' benefit, and this probably would have led to someone like Albertsons or Kroger or possibly even Walmart coming in, buying Whole Foods, buying with it the brand and the really strong market share with a specific clientele. The Whole Foods kind of primary customers are very highly sought after, high discretionary income, very affluent customer. So a lot of interest in the customer, but these companies would have more than likely totally liquidated leadership, and they would have just migrated operations and assimilated the central functions of the organization, things like category management, sourcing, executive team, et cetera, all the strategy. That would have likely just merged into existing headquarters in Cincinnati or out in Boise or in Bentonville. And so Mackey saw this as really not just a threat to, his personal control over being the largest shareholder in a public company and being the founder, but literally to the identity and the soul of the company, which was the people and the strategy and kind of the culture that I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about later. And so Mackey calls up Jeff Bezos and in a preemptive move, convinces Jeff to put an offer on the table and that he's able to take back to the shareholders and ultimately gets approved. And that's how that acquisition went down. On the flip side, though, for Amazon, this was very much an offensive move of opportunity. And Amazon is, if nothing else, known for two things. They're known as being insanely focused on the customer and being incredibly driven to disrupt. And so, customer centricity and disruption aside, they are also opportunistic. And so, getting into food delivery online is something that had been on the roadmap for some time, but when Whole Foods came up, that provided a really unique opportunity to level up one of the most valuable assets that you can have, especially in the food business, which is customer trust and the trust in quality, in particular in things like perishables, produce, meat, seafood. When you think about the challenges customers have buying groceries where they're not in the store and they're buying it from their phone and they're having someone else bring it to their house. One of the most difficult things to overcome is the perception that whoever else is going to get this product for me, they're not going to pick the right apples out of the bin, or they're going to give me the bruised bananas, or they're going to pick the package of hamburgers that doesn't look as appetizing. Whatever it is, that like act of selection is a sizable challenge that online retail e-commerce has had to deal with in the food space. And so what Whole Foods has, probably stronger than any other player, at least in the United States grocery business, is that trust of quality. So this was an opportunistic offensive move for Amazon to kind of gear up and make a presence instantaneously into the grocery space. So it kind of worked out. It was pretty fortuitously timed, I think, for both parties. But from there, that's where a lot of the similarities fade, and you start dealing with two very different organizations. So shift over. I think the next question was, I'll talk a little bit about my job too. So what do I do? I'm vice president of sourcing and product development. So sourcing and product development is a new team. It took a couple of old teams and merged them, and then we've been adding new capabilities to those teams into kind of one central group. And that group runs sourcing, supplier selection, negotiation, supplier performance management on the kind of sourcing discipline side. And then we've also got a team that handles research and development, product commercializations, the actual act of like creating products, formulating, creating packaging, and then a logistics team that actually helps bring the product to market. So kind of all those things operate across the store and are encompassing entirely of our what we call exclusive brands. So 365 brand and Whole Foods Market branded products. And then within, we've got some teams that are kind of brand agnostic, so they can be deployed kind of regardless of what the brand profile is. But the lion's share of the work we do is on those two brands, as they're called, our brand portfolio. It's about a $4 billion book of business retail, and I've been given the opportunity to come in, be part of a company that's really mission based, higher purpose of nourishing people on the planet, and doing that by helping create greater accessibility to the incredible quality that Whole Foods Market brings to the marketplace. So that's my job, and been having a lot of fun in the year since joining. A lot to do, lot to go after. So, any questions on that preamble? All right. Switch gears over to what is it like to work for Amazon and Whole Foods? So I mentioned mission. That's a big deal for Whole Foods in particular. The people, I think are the thing I've probably been most impressed with joining Whole Foods. Is the teams are just filled with people with passion. They're not there to just get a paycheck. They need a paycheck, but they're there because they could work probably anywhere, but they're doing what they think is the best thing they can do to fulfill their higher purpose. And so, kind of moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs into more of the self-actualization space, and help whether it's sustainability that they're passionate about, or animal welfare, or just really high quality products. I mean, the best food and the best drinks that you can get in the industry. That's what we source every day. So it is fun to be around a group that's very focused on that. And as such, there is a orientation to think big, and really seek to set the bar and be an agent of change. So don't just come in and make the donuts and go home, but how can we go do some real big things and make a difference? And so that's kind of the top line. That's very enjoyable. There's absolutely though two very distinct cultures. Amazon and Whole Foods. Uh, I don't think it could be more obvious until you work in the environment. And I work for Whole Foods, but I actually interact quite a bit with the Amazon organization. Amazon, as you likely know, is working on starting up a grocery business called Fresh, and they carry a lot of our 365 brand, which my team sources on behalf of Amazon. So we have constant connections with them, making sure products getting where it needs to get to, and kind of talking strategy and forward planning and all that kind of thing. And the difference in the people, their mindset, their approach, and it's all a manifestation really of the cultural distinction between the two organizations. I mentioned customer centricity at the very beginning, and Amazon is actually perfectly aligned with Whole Foods on that front. Obsessed customer obsession. It's one of the leadership principles of Amazon, and it's definitely at the core of what Whole Foods is all about. But past that, I would say things diverge quite a bit, and neither of them is right or wrong. Right? There's just different aspects of both, so it's kind of interesting to interact with both of them. But when we talk about Amazon culture, the culture is, as best I can describe, it's all about disruption, speed. Go fast. If you're going to fail, fail fast, and put some smart people together to figure out some really big questions. And if you get 10 big ideas, maybe two of them work out, and that's great. And the other eight, that's fine. We'll test things. They won't all work, and that's no problem. On the flip side, Whole Foods Market is, and I say this with all due love and respect, Whole Foods Market culture is crunchy and organic. It's It's about people who are mission minded. They have a big purpose, right? Nourish people on the planet. But with that comes a challenge of, what we describe as consensus culture, where you've got a lot of people who are really passionate, but they tend to not want to stay in their swim lanes, and there can be a groupthink requirement of, well, let's make sure everyone is supportive. Whole Foods, um, I skipped this, but in the origin story of Whole Foods, has anyone heard of the story of the Whole Foods market flood? It's in religion. You'll know that many of the world religions have like a flood story to begin them, or in their origins. Well, Whole Foods Market has a flood story, and that was shortly after Whole Foods took the name Whole Foods in 1980. They built a new store, and um, the store flooded like 2 months in, and they didn't have insurance. They were like, hippies running a food commune in Austin, Texas in 1980, and basically would have immediately put them out of business, like destroyed the store, all the stock. Um, John Mackey tells a story about how he swam out of the store with the money from the safe, from the lockbox in the office, like through broken glass, and that's the kind of level of destruction that this flood occurred. And the store survived because the vendors, the suppliers, and the community basically rallied around it and put it all back together again. And suppliers gave product for free, or like on loan, with extended terms, so that the business could get back up and running. And that's stuck with John and the other founders, who have all, pretty much since now, exited the industry based on age. But that had a real big impact on the culture, and it's one they refer to as stakeholder minded. So, really thinking about all the stakeholders, making sure that you respect and understand how everyone plays an integral role. You can't just, you know, focus on winning one part of the transaction. It's got to work for everyone, and that's a beautiful ideal. But the challenge that presents is this consensus culture that you face, where everyone's got to weigh in, and it just slows down decision making. And so, where Amazon's fast and can be messy and just focused on disruption, Whole Foods is like methodical, and like 97 people got to sign off and check in, and um, both with all the best of interest. But put these two cultures in a room together, and you can imagine that they're going to run into some challenges working together. Any questions on culture or working at Whole Foods or Amazon?
I got
And
one.
Just let me know you're still awake, because I'm worried I've lulled you into an afternoon nap. But go ahead, Mark.
The fresh business, is that going to be brick and mortar and online, or more online, or how's it going to differ from Whole Foods?
It is both. As Whole Foods Market is now, sizable e-commerce presence as well. So think of it like a different brand operated by the same company. So Whole Foods is a lifestyle grocer, highest quality natural organic foods. Uh, Food is theater, the experience, usually in really high-end real estate, great, beautiful fixtures. It's an expensive environment. It's a high service environment. And it's a fun place to shop. Go into a brand new Whole Foods, and there's not many more special retail experiences you can have. Certainly not in the food space than a brand new Whole Foods Market that just opens up. Amazon Fresh is more of a mainstream grocer, so they're trying to provide both a brick and mortar and an e-commerce competition to, Kroger and Safeway, Albertsons, and Walmart. The things that you can't buy at Whole Foods, you can buy at Amazon Fresh. So Whole Foods famously doesn't carry products like Coca-Cola or Oreo cookies or so many of these like major CPG staples. But yeah, you can get all those at Amazon Fresh. So it's targeting a lower demographic and more kind of a mainstream clientele, and so trying to broaden the reach of food both through online, which of course is the primary Amazon business, and then also with a brick and mortar presence, because we think that you need to have both. It's really difficult to just have online only food. You have really two. I don't want to go down this as like a 2 hour TED Talk topic, but the whole supply chain difference of food retail versus Amazon, item picking, are incompatible distribution systems. So, you've got to kind of have a presence in both we believe, to be successful in either. So, yeah, thanks for that. All right. So covered culture. And so we'll go over to priority changes from, kind of since pandemic. So to start, I'll say that we've really moved from a basic need state where we were purely in a reactive mode. In the early days of pandemic, it was just about like, how do you get bleach and paper towels and hand sanitizer and whatever, right? Like just get something on shelf. People need stuff, and it didn't really matter what the brand was. It didn't even really matter what the price was. You just needed product. It was very reactive, very tactical, and it was very laser focused on one thing, getting demand covered in a period of an exposure of disconnect on supply and demand. And we're past all that, right? Like we're now in a place where we're working strategically and proactively forward. We're still dealing with problems, but that's what retail is. There's always a problem, and so we've got a new set of problems we're dealing with. But and some of those maybe you can trace back to the pandemic, but a lot of it is kind of newly emerged. But when you think back, for me, for the pandemic, it did a few things. First, it exposed a lot of risks that were present in our supply network that we could have done a better job remediating if we had the intention of doing so before the events that occurred happened, right? And so that exposure has led to greater awareness that there are things that can be done now to help prevent a future situation from being as bad. The other thing it did was it accelerated the change curve on a number of things affecting consumer behavior. So you think about consumers' adoption of online grocery delivery went from very low to everyone was going to be comfortable with it overnight as long as you could get a delivery window through Instacart. Completely changed consumer behavior. The shift in culinary trends to accommodate, cooking from home, where all the food service options basically eliminated, overnight. There was a lot of kind of tectonic shifts in consumer behavior that, maybe 10 years or more of change occurred in 18 months because of the pandemic. And that's left us in a space where even though we're adjusting in our reality, some of those learnings, they don't just go away. And so now we've got to react to a new current state. And of course, that current state has a lot of price inflation in it. I think the most recent numbers, you're still around 9%, inflation year over year on a market basket of goods. That's an incredibly high number. That's like 4 years of inflation in a single year. Um, you've got a technical economic recession. Of course, the economy is not really behaving like a recession, so low employment, slow shift in channel from quick serve restaurants over to at-home prep. We're not seeing the same moves that we would have seen, say, in 2008 when we were in the Great Recession. But inflation plus recession puts pressure on both ends on discretionary income. So discretionary income is really the big theme for us as a combo factor, which means people just have less money to use to cover their needs or their wants. And the things I mentioned about accelerated curves in change, for consumer behavior, it's can be difficult to understand what some of those lasting impacts on some major shifts in lifestyle are going to mean for us for the future. Remote working. We're all in a classroom virtually right now. I mean, 2 years ago we could have done this. 3 years ago we could have done this, but it would have been a much more novel idea. And now it's like second nature. It would be, it could be more unusual to not be, constantly relying on virtual technology. And of course, that's led to this mass migration of people, where they live and how they behave in their communities, very different. Pandemic put a spotlight on what work-life balance means. Think about all the time people got back from commutes that all of a sudden they were just at home in their pajamas having coffee with their loved ones or spending time with their kids or their friends or whatever. And we in many industries are facing an incredible challenge finding people who are willing to work, especially at the lower end of, kind of like the entry level of the wage spectrum, store level. It is near impossible to keep a store operations roster filled. Even though we've increased our opening wages multiple times, you bring people in, they work for a few months and you lose them. And so it's this constant retention challenge. And of course, the more you pay, the more you've got to charge for food. And then that just is another factor into the inflation conversation. So all these things are kind of new, factors that we're working on. And so for us, for me, for my team, the big focus is on value. Whole Foods is not going to be the cheapest product on market. We're never going to win that battle, and we really can't, because we're not built to play in that space. We're built to provide incredible quality products, and so the way we're going to win is by illustrating and helping connect people to the value that they receive, and that's inclusive of both price and quality. So the combination of which is a compelling value, and we just got to really drive the value button as hard as we can. Shifting gears now over to another question was around supply challenges, and yeah, we've still got supply shortages. You hear in the news cycle, there's lots of different things, but most of what we're facing now is pretty directly attributable to the Ukraine conflict. As opposed to kind of a more general, onslaught against the marketplace. You still get labor-related issues, maybe Someone's got a company loses a shift, so they're not able to produce something on time, or a dock's closed temporarily, or things like that cause kind of sporadic and temporary delays. But the real significant moves in supply and demand have really been more the result of geopolitical unrest, primarily attached to Russia, Ukraine. And I mentioned earlier about the pandemic highlighting risks that were already present in our supply chain. And so, we've been working pretty diligently as a result to build better resiliency in our supply chain. So those things help you kind of regardless of the issue, right? Like, how do you onboard additional sources of supply? How do you enable diversion of product throughout your network more effectively? How do you insert better controls up the stream of supply so that when things get scarce, you've got a little better handle on the requirements that you'll need. So those are things that we had already begun to work on and continue to focus on to help us here. But another example I would call out is the reformulation work that we've had to do on a lot of examples. Probably the number one that hit us early with Ukraine was sunflower oil. Sunflower oil in the organic and natural food business is an incredible, highly demand ingredient. We basically moved away almost entirely from products like soybean and canola oil over to products like sunflower oil because of the challenges in finding a non-GMO version of those other products. They're almost ubiquitous in nature at this point, that they're all genetically modified hybrids naturally occurring at this point. You can get them, but they're just really hard to find. So we had preferred to formulate with sunflower oil, and also has really great flavor. Well, guess who produces 90% of the world's supply of sunflower oil, of the non-GMO variety? Ukraine, and the wonderful growing region of that country basically went completely offline. And so we've had to reformulate a ton of products to sub out ingredients. And that'll likely have lasting effects as we look at like our ingredient deck. And we probably need to introduce alternatives right into the formula to say, like, we're going to use 3 different oils in any proportion, and then you've got the option, or you don't have to print new packaging. You can just swap in one oil for another. Of course, that's easier said than done. Oil does, contribute flavor and some other, impacts to the food manufacturing process. So there's not an exact substitute for one oil to another. So you've got to deal with, consumer, impacts, changes to taste, or other kind of flavor profile impacts, or scent, aroma, texture, all that type of thing. So those are some of the things we're doing to help address and kind of roll with the punches on our supply chain. Any questions on that or the topic before, on the pandemic shifts and priorities?
I have a question.
Hi, David.
So when you're talking about these shortages, is this something that's like constantly happening, or are there times where when you're working, like things kind of calm down and everything's like going how it's supposed to be going? Or is this like a thing where like it's kind of always, there's always something, like there's a shortage of something always? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is it depends on the scope of the business that you're running. I mean, we're not always running around with our hair on fire, but because my team manages about 3,500 SKUs, we're across the store in all categories. There's probably a fire going at any moment somewhere in our business. So individual team members might go through periods of calmness and but one of the, I mean, this is honestly one of the things I love about the retail businesses. It is changing every day. So something is always happening, and you've really got to act with urgency at all times because the conditions move in real time. And a lot of times too, that I've noticed that people have a tendency to uh, estimate the severity of impacts. Like I don't know if it's like a human defense mechanism, but like you get presented with information, and the first thing people tend to do is like rationalize and like, okay, well, it's not that bad, and here's how we're gonna deal with this and cover through it. But oftentimes the full magnitude of new events really starts to just grow in consciousness and awareness over a period of time, and there's probably something worth keeping you up at night going every day. Of course, don't lose sleep over it. It's just food. We're not performing open heart surgery, but it is a pretty constant and ever evolving landscape with challenges, opportunities. Actually, they're not challenges; they're opportunities. Thanks for that question.
Tom, sometimes I used to say that people try to not only underestimate the impact, but think they can manage it and not have to expose it.
Yeah.
And by the time they realize they can't, it's out of hand so much that it just looks bad.
Yes.
So I've noticed that a lot.
I have seen that too often. And the people in the middle of that usually have all the best of intentions of,
Sure.
taking care of their business, right? They don't want to look bad, but you are so true that, that fear of looking bad and raising your hand and letting people know you might need help is exactly what prevents you from getting the help that you need because a lot of times that's exactly what should have happened, and then you can't go backwards, so you lose that precious reaction time.
Right.
All right, so let's see, back to my outline. How big is inflation? Well, I already gave the numbers. It's huge, 9%. I actually think it's, I'm going to say this and I'm going to knock on my desk because I'm hoping that what I'm telling you is true, but we think we've hit a plateau. It would seem that the Central Bank of the United States does not agree with that sentiment, but we're seeing a lot of the food commodities that we track have retraced from their highs, and many of them are kind of full into correction mode. Correction is 20% down from a recent high. And we've got a lot of our mainstream commodities that are kind of full in correction mode. So we hope that we're through most of it. Of course, there are still plenty of things that can cause price to continue to climb. This isn't I don't think this is a macro econ class, but you can learn all about demand and supply curves and all the functions that drive price up. But what we're facing is really an unprecedented and modern U.S. times ramp up of the cost of basic consumables, and a lot of the toolbox that people have had to play with rising costs over time have kind of gone out the window, right? Like it's hard to react as quick as the market is presenting these prices. You know, a lot of times people would downsize or they'd reformulate to take some expense out. You know, that process takes minimum 12 months or longer to, you know, formulate and commercialize a new product. So who's to say you're going to hit the mark now if you start working today to target, you know, a new form of your product in September 2023? Is that going to, you know, meet the needs, or are you going to have to go back to the drawing board and get back at it again? So we've passed a lot of pricing through, you know, all retailers have, and of course that puts a big strain on, you know, consumers' budgets. And you know, I mentioned the number we're focused on isn't so much inflation; it's discretionary income, and you know, it's got a double whammy going against it between rising costs and the troubling state of the economy, where GDP has been negative the last 2 quarters, and so kind of the outlook of where that takes us, you know, just leads us to a place where there's going to be tighter competition over fewer dollars, and you know, that's going to make it harder. You know, competition is the, you know, um, fuel for, you know, progress and change. So surely some great things are going to come out of this, but it's a tough environment to deal with, and especially for a company like Whole Foods, where we are occupying kind of the higher end of the space, and we're already prey to the perception that our prices are very expensive. So then you layer on price increases on top of that, and it just exacerbates the challenge. And you know, we're working hard to try and make sure that we do the right things, but also you know, we got our flood story to tell us that we also need to take care of our suppliers. Everyone's got to win through this whole thing. So you know, trying to strike that right balance so that we can still take care of our customers, but you know, do it in a way that's fair to everyone in the chain. And the food business is really facing a crisis over the next, you know, 50 years. There's going to be more demand for food than the entire world has produced up to its history to now, over the next 50 years, which is going to put incredible strain on our systems and access to water and agriculture and technology. And it's going to create a lot of temptation for people to cut corners. And, you know, and that's why I think it's so important that you've got places like Whole Foods that are really focused on doing the right things for the planet, for the animals, for the people that are involved in the growing and production and distribution of those products. Everyone's being taken care of. And if you don't do those things, you know, someone's going to lose, and lose big. And it doesn't make sense for only some of the group to be coming through with a win at the end. So yeah, inflation, that is a tough pill to swallow. We're working through it. We don't have the answers, but we've got some ideas, and we're working hard on it. Any questions on inflation? Last topic I had was what challenges do you face now, or foresee for yourself, for Whole Foods, for Amazon moving forward? And you know, I think there's a couple of different challenges presented. You know, if you're Amazon's huge, and how do you continue to grow and shake things up when you've gotten as big as they have. I think that is the challenge, is, driving profitable growth from the scale that we're already at, is just going to become harder and harder. But there's a lot of incredibly intelligent people working on things that I've got a lot of excitement and enthusiasm over what Amazon's got in the pipeline. Um, this is the grocery space, especially with the Whole Foods Market customer that I referenced back at the beginning of this talk. It is such a highly desirable customer because of the affluence, that there is just so much competition coming after this customer base. So, fighting off really from all channels, other e-commerce players, club stores like Costco, the discounters like Walmart, or Aldi, or traditional grocery, Kroger, Safeway, Albertsons. All these folks are going after the Whole Foods Market customer, and so competition is tough. And I've already said this: we're not going to win on price, so we have to win by staying in front of the pack. But doing that in a way, in an inflationary environment where we don't price ourselves out of the budget for people, that we remain priced within an affordable and accessible range where people can trade up to the quality that we present to them. That's the toughest thing we're trying to crack at Whole Foods Market, is kind of navigating these forces and avoiding being complacent, because the competition is able to follow faster than they've ever followed before, and so that pushes us to continue to try and raise that bar. And we just gotta bring the customers along with us. So that's the beauty, but the challenge presented. So any other questions? Otherwise, that is all I had. So hope that was informative and helpful for you. And anyways, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I see a hand up from Lawrence.
Yes, I'm not sure if it's really a question, but more so of a statement. Me and a buddy of mine were having a conversation kind of about the supply shortages and kind of what it would take to fix it. And I wanted your perspective on this. Do you think it would be in America's best interest to bring the manufacturers and the factories back here to our own shores instead of exporting everything?
Hmm.
Kind of in the way we did in the 40s and 50s with the factories, and the way that technology is today, that could bring forth a lot of new jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, Lawrence. I mean, the reality is the network that's been developed on international trade has taken, decades and hundreds of years to unfold and kind of get to this, Adam Smith invisible hand allocation of resources around the globe, which I support, and I think it's the right model, is to kind of leverage comparative advantage between different economies, and have a true global economy, and not be insular to an individual economy. That said, I think there are changes that have happened in the last 5 years that have perhaps require a revisit of some of the math, because when we ship overseas, and I buy a lot of our products from international marketplaces, the cost of international freight, the risk of, and the time it takes to get, over the water, through the dock, through customs, all those things add cost, add risk, and are a potential disruption to our required supply. So I think there's absolutely an interest in food in particular to create more locally available high quality products, and reduce the the requirements for, the transportation industry. It's also, part of the green movement of how do we take, greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions out of the equation. A big part of that is the transportation space. So if we can provide products more localized, I think there's probably a different balance than currently exists. I don't think it's a complete shift away, but it's probably overweighted to call it the economic favoritism that true kind of international trade developed over the past 50 years.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
I'm sorry, I
All
have
right.
another one. There's another one from Militia.
See Anthony.
Or Anthony. It's
Martinez.
Anthony.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? I just wanted to say this was like very informational. Honestly, I didn't know like that much going in about Whole Foods, and like there's one kind of by me, but I found it really informational, honestly, and especially with like the whole addressing the food crisis sort of thing in the future. I never knew that was even like possible, but I'm glad people like and corporations are like thinking about things like that. So I just found it very informational, and I thank you for this.
Well, I hope you find a reason to go check out that Whole Foods in the area. There's some cool stuff in there. So, and
Yeah, it
thanks
looks
for,
nice.
Thanks for listening.
Lydia.
Beautiful.
Hi, yes, can you hear me, Tom?
I can. Hi, Lydia.
Hi. So I just had a question. Obviously you do sourcing at Whole Foods, and I'm really interested in like sustainable farming. I'm actually from Arkansas. I have a lot of friends and people like family that work with farming. So I'm just kind of curious some of the things that you look at. I mean, I'm sure it's on the website as well when it comes to like product sourcing. Um, and yeah, wanting your product maybe looked at.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Lydia. I mean,
Mhm.
probably the biggest thing we're focused on in terms of agricultural systems are the health of the network. So if that's farming, it'd be like regenerative farming and soil health. If it's if you've got cows or chickens, it's going to be the animal health. There's a lot either with breeding or no-till, planting, where there are changes in practice and technology that we absolutely will lead to better health outcomes, improved carbon sequestration and soil health, and ultimately healthier people and planet.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your response.
My pleasure. All right, good questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I got one. With Bezos leaving, the day-to-day operations and Mackey leaving, Whole Foods, you have the iconic, innovative, inspirational leader leave. And oftentimes they get placed by people that are less innovative and less push the envelope and more interested on corporate profit through line extension rather than crazy innovation. Can you comment on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, we do have two new leaders with Andy Jassy and with Jason Beekle. Andy, I don't know nearly so well as I do Jason. Jason's, I think, a brilliant person. He's like one of these rare people who's like a machine. Like I know he like sleeps at night, but like he runs like 5 miles a day and works like tirelessly. He did this road trip over the summer where he hit every single one of our regions. They did this like massive tour to just reconnect with the roots of the business. So I see the effort and the energy that he's placing into the foundations of the company, which makes me really excited because I truly believe he values the kind of the core principles of the organization, kind of and really John Mackey selected Jason as his heir, and worked for about a year on the transition plan, because he announced his retirement about a year ago, which is kind of a nice luxury that we were able to have with this long kind of transition of leadership within the group. But they're totally different people. Honestly, John was like, I saw him in the office like twice, and he's like, he's been doing it for 44 years. He's not going to like meetings, he's kind of contributed his thing. But Jason's like tirelessly involved. It'll be interesting to see the risk aversion factor that you pointed out there, Mark. Like, will he be willing to make as big of a bet as maybe John would be? That's going to be tough. But I think the fact that you've got a company behind Whole Foods and Amazon that really values risk taking and disruption, and has some really big aspirations for what it intends to be in the food space, I think cultivates an environment of risk tolerance that hopefully will prevent the temptation for Jason to just kind of steer the ship in the same direction it's been pointed.
Okay, thank you. Being cognizant of your time, and you've given this over an hour already, it's greatly appreciated. If there's any more questions or anybody would like to make a comment to Tom, let us know. If not, Tom, thank you so much for doing such a great job here and sharing with us. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll see you in a month and a half, I guess.
Yeah, looking forward to it. See you in Lake Forest, Mark, and class. Thanks for your time this evening. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you very much. Take care.